It's Friday, Feedback Friday, the feedbackiest day of the week. It is Feedback Friday, and I am really worn out this Friday. It has been a long week. Momo was back at the vet. Long story, not going to get into it. But I am going to have to start doing the Patreon stuff earlier again, because ever since I started putting it at the end, my new signups on Patreon have just taken a giant crap. And Patreon's one of these things where people have to drop support for various reasons. They can't afford it anymore. There's always sort of natural attrition. So you have to build up your Patreon count, every month. And ever since they handled that fight with Sargon badly, Patreon's been a tough slog, so any help you can provide, any support would be greatly appreciated. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron, patreon.com/Leanna K. I have gotten a post office box for Lady Bits fulfillment stuff, so I'll be rolling that out soon. The number on it is kind of ironic. It has a 666 in it. It's like, do they know about Beelzebub? But yeah, so I don't know how many people are going to send checks. I got it so that there could be a return address for the Ladybit stuff that gets sent out without, sending my home address to like 400 people. But yeah, that is there if people do want to send stuff from now on. So that will be incoming eventually. I'm overloaded with all the new stuff I have had to teach myself. It's been ages since I did mass label printing from a spreadsheet. It used to be so easy. Now there's this damn Microsoft Word mail merge, and it's like an 8-step process, and so frustrating. That has only been one of the things I've had to teach myself this week. Some people are trying to be very, very patient with me with like Twitch overlays and stuff like that. I am not getting it, which is not like me. Like I said, I think I'm just really overloaded on new. But Twitch overall has been going well. It's very simple. And I keep having technical problems, like my 4K monitor dying before Tuesday's stream. But why is my exercise bike still here? I don't know. But overall, we're actually getting slightly more people watching the Thursday 1 p.m. Eastern time than the Tuesday 6 p.m. Eastern my time. So that's interesting. More Europeans can watch during the day, and then I guess people they work from home, or I don't know how they watch it. So it's definitely, there are some people who watch both, but it's definitely more convenient for European people for a stream to start like when it's 6 p.m. in Germany than when it's like 10 p.m. in Germany and they need to go to bed. So I'll do it as much as I can both days, but it's kind of good to have different days. So if I have to miss one, I still have the other that week. I'm not doing nothing. But yeah, Twitch is fun. I mean, I don't have overlays or anything like that, so it's relatively no stress. Somebody told me I could do one off an iPad or something, but I'm way dragging this out. I want to address something I said on Twitter before I get to your comments. It was about Mortal Kombat 11, and I thought I should, because people are like, what? It was actually an article in response to an article that came out March 6th in Polygon. And I was really cautious because it was Polygon. I just saw it. And when the person originally linked me to it, I was like, it's Polygon. They could have been primed. They could have been fed the question. It could be misrepresentative. But the more I thought about it, the more it's like, you know what? That's not right. And I shouldn't have kind of Stockholm syndrome when it comes to, how could I put this? Stockholm syndrome involving the game franchise I like. And every gamer has this, right? Every gamer has a point where I'm with you. I cannot be with you anymore. You've just crossed a line. You've kicked me in the gamer feels too much. I can't follow you down this rabbit hole anymore. And the paragraph I'm referring to is here, that there's a bit more seriousness this time around. From my time playing the game's opening moments, it's clear that some well-loved characters will be getting killed off early. Gee, thanks. But with a plot that focuses on time travel, anything can happen. Regardless, Barron says his team has taken a more measured approach with the art direction in MK11. That's especially true of the game's female fighters. Our character lead, Brandon George, has been a breath of fresh air of just introducing new ideas. Barron said, our design is just getting more mature and respectful. You're not going to wear a bikini to a fight. You're not going to be showing so much skin. I think it's just what this game is about. You're going in to fight for your life, and you're not going to be wearing such scantily clad items. I'm sure this will disappoint some fans. We don't have bathing suit fighters, and I think that's fine. If people are disappointed, I don't regret making that change by any means. You guys probably know what I'm going to say here. It's only the women that this has happened to. A bunch of the guys are still shirtless. They're going in, fighting for their lives. They are shirtless. So the logic doesn't follow. I don't have a problem with costume changes. I don't. That's not the issue I had with this comment. It's the art design is just getting more mature and respectful comment. And the implication there is that they knowingly weren't being respectful for all these fucking years where female fans like me have been supporting them and going, it's equality, it's all silly, the guys are shirtless, the women are in, the only person I can think who was in a bikini was Shiva. But they're in sort of the figure model outfits, like the female bodybuilder outfits, and that was fine. But to hear out of someone, who's a developer, that, oh no, now it's more respectful, it's not about that. Go in any art direction you want, but don't pull the benevolent sexism on me, dude. You should be able to respect a woman no matter what she's wearing. It does not have anything to do with how little or how much a woman is wearing. This respect thing, no, not cool. And so I kind of think, as excited as I was for Mortal Kombat 11, I cannot buy a game from a developer that holds those attitudes. I can't. I don't feel right, because if I do that, then I'm giving in. I'm accepting that lousy treatment where games I love are basically telling me to cover up. It's not my choice. It's, if you respect yourself, you won't dress that way. BS, no, that's benevolently sexist. That's something you don't put on male characters, past Johnny Cage and Revenant Liu Kang and Garrus, and half the freaking male cast is shirtless. So don't tell me that. So that's disappointing. And I talked to, it was actually a woman online who worked for NetherRealm Studios, and she said that doesn't actually reflect the company mandate as she understood it. She thought it was badly worded. She wouldn't put it that way. So all it's going to take for me is a clarification from NetherRealms that they've always respected women in their games, including their fan base and the cosplayers that wear those costumes. That's really rude to say to the cosplay community that has supported your games for freaking decades. Sexy costumes at all. It's just disrespectful. It is disrespectful to the women who have been fans of this series for quite a while. And I can't be okay with that. That's just against everything I'm about. So it sucks, but you got to do what you got to do, right? And for the record, this is not me advocating for anyone else to not buy the game. I'm not saying that. Make your own choice. I'm just saying this is what I'm comfortable with. Okay, so let's get to your comments now that I've spent 9 minutes on no comments on Feedback Friday. Awesome. There were more comments on how not being pilloried for disagreements on this channel is cathartic. And my nose is going right again. But not being pilloried for healthy disagreements on this channel is cathartic. It's good to be reminded of that. I still don't get the inability to disagree respectfully. I really couldn't handle it if that wasn't the norm in my work now. That's something that's really important to me because that's how things get better. And if people know that they're going to be heard, if they're cool about disagreement, then they don't have to take it to 11, right? Like it serves everybody. So that was in response to the GDCA, combating hate in a way I thought was totally wrong. And, the comments on that, I was expecting to get a bit of pushback on this, and I really didn't. And that really surprises me, which is, it's educational is all I can say. There were a lot of comments about, people who grandstand about how good of a person they usually are, have a few embarrassing skeletons in their closet. True. These self-righteous idiots don't realize that pushing people away is only a large extremist media spheres. It's been one gift to the alt-right after another. Yeah. I like this comment from the Squiggy on Tim Schafer and related topics. Through the eyes of the progressive lens, here comes Schafer, a middle-aged, wealthy white guy in a suit, otherwise known as the problem. Not because he is actually the problem, but because he looks like the problem. He is defined by his racist, sexist class and his connections to an industry that's been maligned as the breeding ground of the problem. So he makes an attempt to signal that he is not the problem. And from this, we are forced to acknowledge that getting categorized as the problem has literally nothing to do with our actions in society, but our immutable characteristics and our slot on the social ladder. Back in the day, we called this sort of judging people without knowing anything about them bigotry, and it used to be viewed as a moral failing even. I believe we're going to go back to that. I believe the clock's ticking on identitarianism in all forms. Whether it be on the left, masquerading as progressivism, whether it being on the right, masquerading as conservatism, more and more and more and more, I hear people are just tired of it and something has to give. So, moving on to the next video, which was also about Tim Schafer. I hate having to do that because, like I said, I really like Psychonauts. But yeah, again, a lot more agreement than I thought I would get, because the last time I talked about union stuff, there were people representing all sides, and I thought that was good. I learned a bit about union stuff, but one of the things that somebody pointed out that I didn't say, well, first of all, one person said, I've never understood how colored people was racist, but people of color isn't. All right, fair point. It just shows how arbitrary these, politically correct terms are. Another person, Galen Johnson, said unions were meant to make hard, dangerous labor jobs that paid the bare minimum safer for the workers. They were the last option to take a small bit of the almost unlimited authoritarian power from the bosses and make a miserable existence of workers better. It's sad the unions became their own form of elitist hierarchy because their purpose should be limiting a moral corporate power. Well said, Galen. And then someone else said, and this was an absolutely brilliant point that I think I kind of danced around and never actually hit on. A drearier spider once said, forget any issues with unions in and of themselves. The simple fact is you're going to have waves of scabs crossing the picket line. Gaming is a multi-billion-dollar industry and programmers are all over the place. Plenty of people would take these jobs. Yes, well said. That's just a reality of the industry. These people have jobs. They're often the only income or definitely the highest income, because if they want a family whatsoever and they work long hours, the spouses have to make sacrifices in their jobs because they got to be the primary caregivers. So yeah, they can't afford to take strike pay all the time. I mean, the voice actors got hammered with that. It was really rough for a lot of people. In response to that comment, there were two responses that were also great. Yorgamundo7 said, programmers also have career expectations for constant company and project hopping. We define ourselves by loyalty to our software code and to meritocracy. If it crashes, it doesn't work, and no amount of fudging or soft skills will change that. That's not exactly a recipe for loyalty to my union brothers. In the millisecond a less competent coder is kept at a job because of union pressure, you'll see every single decent software dev turn hostile against their unionized coworkers. That's, yes. The thing about that is in gaming, coders are now in a minority position. There's a lot more artists, designers that aren't exactly coders. That's where merit gets messier. I don't really think that the coders are really the ones pushing this unionization effort. I could be completely wrong. But yeah, good point. And Joshua Richardson said, outsourcing will kill the union effort. AAA will look overseas for their coders, and the people who are counting on the unions to save their jobs are going to be very disappointed. That's absolutely true. Somebody said in Jono 793 said in response to my quote, we're talking about, unions will facilitate diversity, stamp out racism, sexism, and so-called white supremacy, where I was like, yeah, right. Jono said, 2 words, police unions, I rest my case. Ouch. But you have a point, sir. It sort of goes on from there. So, moving on. Read the comments. There's a lot of good ones. The one on game streaming, I was expecting to get a lot more pushback than I got. The most pushback I got from this video, I think it was this video. Maybe it was the other one about unions. But I said something about Poland being in the Eurozone, and a lot of people got on me because the Polish currency is the zlotsky. Is I saying that right? But Poland is still in the Eurozone, meaning free movement of people. And when I looked it up, they did make a promise to eventually phase out their currency. I mean, the thing is, England still uses the British pound, even though they're in the European Union, the Eurozone. A lot of stores there take both. But I think that's why I was like, I couldn't remember if Poland was in the European Union or not, because they are in the European Union, or the Eurozone. They are in the European Union, but they don't use the euro yet. So that, just making that clear, because a lot of people got upset at me for that when I was like, can you clarify? Like, they couldn't really. They just kept saying, we use this currency. It's like, yeah, but you're still in the European Union, which is the Eurozone. I mean, anyway, moving on. A bunch of people pointed out that this is to kill the used market and game sharing. I haven't heard that. And I don't know that it will kill the used market, because people are still going to buy discs. If they start phasing out discs, which I know there's a lot of people going, this next console generation will be the last console generation. I just can't see that happening. In part because one person commented, where is it? When Shikibara said that when I held up the old copy of Warcraft Orcs and Humans, they started getting like teary-eyed from nostalgia because it was the first game they played on their dad's lap as a toddler. You're not going to get that without something physical. If it's just streamed, if it's just in the ether, it's just not the same. Although we did have a lot of fun playing, my downloaded, DOS emulated copy of like Leisure Suit Larry 1 on Twitch on Thursday. People were like, what? And then other people were like remembering the whole thing. We were showing people a bunch of stuff. But yeah, that game, man, the game seems so cuddly, and it was considered so racy in 1987. Other people pointed out that it's going to make censorship worse in game streaming. We'll have to see. A lot of people commented that internet in the US isn't as good as I was led to believe. Somebody said that even living in California near the cesspool of Silicon Valley, the ISPs in my area meter my internet after a terabyte of data. And that's really interesting to me, because the excuse that the ISPs up here claim is that we have fewer people and less space, and that's why our internet is so expensive. If the internet is also expensive down there in like Silicon Valley, like that doesn't bode well for people's ability to use it. A couple people made like points about the whole thing, saying they have crappy internet, so they're not going to use streaming services. They don't trust big companies because they're more interested in money than good products. They care about good games, meaning paying up front for something and then not having to do with a bunch of microtransactions. And then, the whole question of censorship. I really think that streaming games is going to be an add-on, not a replacement, because of all these issues. Another comment about internet. I lived in a small town in the US during college, and we had no choice in provider for internet, and I lived in 4 places. We were told it would be 70 megabits per second, but usually got around 10. I could hardly ever play with friends, much less stream a bunch of HD content. This town has 50,000 people in it. We couldn't get consistent internet. Wow. Another person said, I actually lived in a trailer in the small town of Albany, Kentucky for almost a decade and got pretty decent internet speeds, enough to play on Xbox Live without much trouble and watch YouTube in HD all the time. Granted, you had one and only choice as to where you got your internet from. Monopoly seemed to be the biggest problem for most internet-connected rural America, in my opinion. So it's like I said, it's a checkerboard. And, and then another person says the tech sector has an authoritarian streak, and that is your evidence for them not being left. No, that's not my evidence for them not being left, commenter. This is where I'll leave it. It isn't about authoritarianism. Authoritarian is a different axis than right versus left. The thing about left-wing politics is kind of hardwired into it, is the idea that you want to diversify wealth instead of trickle-down economics, where it'll just sort of happen on its own. The idea of income redistribution, so you have less of a gap between the haves and the have-nots, is kind of integral to left-wing thought. So if you're pushing any sort of service that increases the gap between haves and have-nots, you can't call yourself left-wing. It has nothing to do with having an authoritarian streak and everything to do with, that's the exact opposite of what income redistribution is supposed to do, or wealth redistribution is supposed to do, which is create a more even playing field for everybody. This is just completely against that. So I shall leave it there. You guys know where this is going now. Help support this channel. Become a monthly patron. Patreon.com/YannaK. My question for you is, what would it take for you to become a patron? Is this just something you are just opposed to, monthly subscription services? You just can't do that and you'll just give to a Kickstarter or a one-time thing, but not Patreon? Or is there something more that could be done? Because the whole idea of Patreon is that the people who can pay so that the people who can't pay can still get this content. Let me know, and thanks for watching. See you Monday.